Hey guys, it's Shawn. We're going to be talking today about your legal foundation. And I know sometimes here on the channel we get into bigger issues, we get more into tactical things you can do, ways you can develop your business. But today we're going to be focused on that foundation layer that underlies your business and how you can make sure you get that right. A big welcome back to those that have been here before that are regulars here on the channel, and a hello to those that are new. Thanks for joining us. You'll find a lot of great information on this channel about how to manage your business better, how to anticipate some legal issues, and really how to be stronger. But it all starts with your foundation. Just like with your home, what your home is built on matters a lot, right? If you build your home, you build an apartment complex on a weak foundation, you're going to have problems down the line, right? It's only a matter of time. You can build great walls, you can do great decorating, but if the foundation is not strong, the whole system is going to collapse. And it's very similar with your business, with the structure that you're setting up. And we're going to be jumping into that today. Hopefully give you some good tips and ideas. Tips and ideas that you can discuss with your counsel. As usual, we always say this is not legal advice here. We can't give you legal advice over this, YouTube channel. We're just giving you ideas, education, training. Go talk to a lawyer you trust for legal advice. We're also not doing financial or investment advice. Again, talk to trained professionals for that. But it all starts with structure. And I want you to go investigate what structure you have to your business. Is it optimal, right? Does it make sense? And you probably need to get some outside advice on this. Depends on the size of your operations, scale of your operations, what kind of assets are you holding, both personally and in business. But somebody should be looking at this overall structure of how things are held together, right? Do you have the right assets in the right places? Does it protect your assets in the event of lawsuits or other issues? Or is your structure weak? Could it be attacked? Obviously one of the first things most business owners do is they set up an LLC or corporation. They separate their business and personal assets, and they put a firewall between there. The next question is, what other firewalls do you need, right? That's a great first firewall, but it still has issues with it, right? There are ways, and I've done entire presentations for lawyers about all the ways that even though you have an LLC, you can still have liability. And if it's something you guys are interested in, comment. I might do a video on that here for the channel, do a different version of it for regular business owners and leaders. But you build these firewalls, right? So the first firewall is separating business and personal assets. But then you may want firewalls within your personal assets, and you may want firewalls within your business assets, right? So there may be things you want to protect, particularly if you're in a situation where you might have personal liability for stuff. There may be ways to move things around legally and prepare and anticipate the potential for claims. And again, and we've done some videos and articles on that in the past. Again, something we can double down on if you guys are interested in. Go check the channel out. But you can legally do some structuring of your assets generally prior to a big claim coming in. Once a claim comes in, all bets are off. It may be hard to restructure if you're already in a lawsuit. But prior to that time, you can potentially transfer assets in a legal way to give some degree of protection. Same in your business, right? You may want to separate your real estate assets from your operating assets. You may want to divide your business into different segments depending on how your operations are running. So you really need to look at the overall structure. I recently spoke with a lawyer who was working with a client, and they had a business that was set up as an LLC, I believe it was. It was some type of entity. And then that entity was going to own an entity that owned a piece of real estate. That is a structure. It certainly can be done that way. The problem with that is, everything was still owned by the operating company. That business, that first business, is going to own not only the business, but they're going to own the rights to own the company that owns the real estate, right? So so that structure, while it is a structure, may not be the most beneficial structure, because if something happens at the operating company, the real estate is the ownership of the real estate company is an exposed asset. So what you'd rather do in many cases is set these up as parallel companies, right? You would have the operating company and the real estate company maybe owned by the same people, but you wouldn't want the operating company owning the real estate company, because if something bad happens in the operating company, you don't want the ownership of the real estate company to be exposed. These are simple things when you map them out on paper that you can remap, but you got to start with that structure and understand kind of where you are, where you're headed, and you got to build to that right structure. And then you've got to organize the structure, right? So you've now built a structure. How do you keep it organized, and how do you expand it over time? And this is really where you do business planning and visioning with your legal counsel of, this is where we are. This is how we anticipate our operations may expand. This is how we would like to update or revise our structure. We'd like to add subsidiaries. We'd like to add, holding companies for assets like real estate or machinery, equipment. You can kind of do some of that planning now, and then over time you can organize it. Now, if you've been in business for some time and these are all new concepts to you, it's not too late to go back and potentially add some structure to your business. You could do a reorganization and recapitalization to set that up. It may be more challenging once you're a little farther out of the gate and your business is established, but it may be beneficial from an asset protection standpoint and to do some estate planning and other things to organize the structure the right way. So all of this to say, building the structure is the first part of this. Organizing the structure is an important next step. And then, of course, documentation. You're going to have contracts, agreements that are going to be flying around. And a lot of times what we see with businesses is the business gets busy and the documents don't always match what people intended them to say or what they really thought was happening. So you want to make sure things are correct. One of the things we've talked about in prior videos is having the right signature lines. If an LLC is entering into a transaction, you want the signature lines to show that it's the LLC signing by a natural person, right? Ultimately, you got to have a natural person sign. An LLC can't sign a document physically, right? The LLC does not have the physical ability to attach a signature, right? The signature is going to be attached by some person who may be authorized to attach it for the LLC, and that's what you really want to reflect in your documents. It's not, Steve Smith that's signing the contract from a legal standpoint. It's Steve Smith signing the contract for XYZ LLC. So everybody should be very clear when they look at that contract that XYZ LLC was the one that was legally obligated, that signed, and that Steve Smith was just carrying that act out for XYZ LLC. And there's particular ways you can set up these signature blocks to make sure that that's shown correctly. Over time, of course, you're going to enhance your structure. So we built the structure, we organized the structure, we're documenting the structure, and then how do we enhance the structure, right? As you get more assets, as you get bigger operations, maybe you take on more buildings, more equipment, you can go in and improve the structure. Maybe you have more holding companies. You don't want to get carried away. I've seen some people get ridiculous in the number of holding companies they have, where it becomes a paperwork nightmare and things don't make logical sense, or they would all end up getting collapsed in the event of a lawsuit anyway. But to some extent, it does make sense to have more subsidiaries, to have more holding companies as you grow. And maybe you want to do employee equity in certain divisions. I worked with companies over the years where the main business they didn't want to touch, they didn't want to give up the equity, but they had a great employee or great manager that they wanted to give equity in some portion of the business, right? So you can enhance the structure over time if you know where you're at. And then, of course, you want to do periodic reviews. This is with everything in life and business. You want to go back and see how things are working. So I encourage you to periodically go back and review. Is the structure we implemented working? Does it create opportunity? Does it protect our assets? Does it position us for the future? This is just something you could do every quarter, every year. Most people are probably going to do it every year or less, but I would recommend it perhaps yearly or quarterly, depending on your growth rate, to go in and review what you have structure-wise and make sure it makes sense. You know, building this foundation is not perhaps the most exciting thing in your business life, and it's something that most people will get busy on and forget about based on my experience. That's what I see. Most people I work with, they get busy and they never think about going back and revisiting their structure, and it just seems like cost, expense, and time. But if you end up in a lawsuit or you end up having a problem, all of that structuring is going to become so critically important, which is why it's so important we stop, get it done correctly, and then revisit it. That is your foundation for success, is all of that documentation at the core of your business. So, sit down, talk to your legal counsel, go through your documents, see what documents are missing now before you have a problem, fix those holes, and then adjust that structure as appropriate, because if you haven't done this in some times, odds are that there's a chance now to revise things and make them better, and I encourage you to do so. All right, folks, Shawn signing off. Thanks for joining me today. Drop some comments below. Let me know what you're seeing out there and what questions you have, and maybe we'll cover them in future videos. Catch you soon.